I'm Kat, I play Sims, and I built a sort of boarding school for my Legacy Challenge sim. This was the first custom venue that I built with the new Adventure Awaits pack. I had a picture in my head when I first started because I thought I was going to use it for a teen sim, but I'd forgotten when I checked later that he was actually going to be a child for a little while longer, so at first I do start making it quite dark and institutional, but eventually I did actually come back and change the entire colour scheme so it was more suitable for child sims than teens. I put down two buildings. The one on the right I intended to be a sort of dorm, and the one on the left was the main school. At this point it was all a very dark grey, and I used a bit of a mix of packs for the outside. The door was from Businesses and Hobbies for the main building, but the door and the fence outside for the dorms were actually Adventure Awaits. I didn't use as much Adventure Awaits in this build as I thought I might because it didn't really fit the aesthetic. The bulk of the Adventure Awaits pack is very rustic and outdoorsy, and I was going for more of a school with a modernish vibe, so I didn't use a ton of the items from the new pack. Once I started working on the main floor plan, I realised that I had gone a little bit overly huge with the main building, but I'm not a quitter, so I just stuck with it. I needed to have a kitchen and dining room in that main building as well as all of the classrooms and things, so I did need a fair bit of room, but I really didn't need as much as I gave it. At this point, because I was still working on a dark colour scheme, I gave it a life and death flooring, and then I used a couple of really bright carpets. I used one from Discover University, I think, and then an Enchanted by Nature wallpaper. These two rooms were kind of just meant to be for the young children, because I did plan to have multiple different age ranges in this school originally. Doing the dorms, I decided to make 3 identical dorms but in 3 different colour schemes. I bounced backwards and forwards a little bit doing this first part because I was trying to get all the wallpapers in, so I've got like Spa Day in the bathrooms, Businesses and Hobbies in the classrooms, bit of a mixed bag across the whole build, and then I started putting in windows which were mostly from the Happy Birthday update that we got a while back. Those windows are sort of two-tone, so they're a little bit more interesting, and when I changed the colour scheme later, they also came in a swatch that matched everything I was doing, so that worked out well. I just went around both buildings, in some places adding far too many windows and in others probably not enough. I was ultimately just trying to fill wall space because I didn't know how well I was going to be able to decorate with what I had in game. The next step from there was the interior doors. So in the dorms I used one from Adventure Awaits for the actual dorms, and I used Dream Home Decorator for the bathrooms. I put a couple of the archways from the update in as well, and then I used high school years doors for pretty much everywhere else in the main building. After that I went outside to do a play area. I really wanted to use those modular playground items from the new pack. It took a little while to work out which bits could go together and what heights would work and stuff like that. I started out with a pretty bland white and grey colour palette on it. Later on I did end up changing that as well when I changed the outside of the building. I got some terrain paint underneath the high traffic areas of the playground. I put down a couple of chairs and some picnic tables from the new pack as well. And then I just got the standard terrain paint around everything else around the edges and under the tables. I did decide that I wanted the school to have a pool, so I could put down the diving boards and a water slide and things like that. So I just put that right in the front corner of the fenced off area. And then I put a few of the bright topiaries and stuff around the gates just for a little bit of landscaping. I went with a bit more of a neat and tidy landscape style for the most part because it is a school building. I got a little flag on the roof and I started making an outdoor eating area up on the balcony. That was base game tables and backyard stuffed chairs, and then I went inside to work on the bathrooms. This one did turn out to be non-functional when I went to play in the game. I thought I'd given the Sims the half tile they needed to get past those toilet stalls, but it didn't work out in the end. I used base game counters and sinks, and then Adventure Awaits mirrors. I did try and use the new rug from Adventure Awaits, but I didn't like how it looked, so it just got a plain bath mat instead. And then I cluttered up a little bit with some towels and hand washers and things like that. I managed to use some of the artwork at the top of the stairs because it is sort of meant to be camp memorabilia, but it looked like school flags, so it worked quite well in here. I put the big giant mosaic from high school years at the bottom of the stairs, and then I used a high school years rug as well, and I put some cheerleading stuff up on the wall. I stopped for a minute to rearrange some things outside. I put down a dumpster and then I put some traits on the lot as well. I'm still not sure why I chose this moment in the build to do it, but it sort of occurred to us and then I had to. After the little detour, I moved back over the dorm building. I made a couple of little shower stalls and then I put sleek bathroom showers in those. And I put a couple of extra toilet stalls in each as well. I used Businesses and Hobbies for those and for the sinks, and then I put some tiny live-in mirrors up and did the cluttering. I deleted the windows behind the toilet stalls because they were completely blocked anyway, and I just put a couple of bath mats and some towels down. I duplicated that same bathroom across all 3 floors, and then I moved into the dorm rooms. I decided to make the blue and pink rooms the ones for the kids and the green for the teachers. I used Adventure Awaits beds upstairs in the kids' rooms, but I used Dream Home Decorator for the teachers. There's a fair bit of Dream Home Decorator in this room because I think it just looks simple and grown up rather than what I was using in the other rooms. I gave them all cubbies above the beds, and then I put a little bit of artwork above each bed as well just to differentiate them from each other. I put a little Businesses and Hobbies light up over each bed, and then I moved upstairs and put the Adventure Awaits bunks in each of the rooms. I used quite plain base game tables and dressers, and I just duplicated everything in the other rooms in different colours. The pink room has a high school years mirror. Both of them have the same fireplace and the same poster in different colours. I did do a different mirror in the corner of what I was calling the boys' bedroom at the minute, but it wasn't really. Everybody just used whichever one they wanted. The other problem I had with the dorm rooms was that those middle bunks turned out not to be functional when I played it. I'm not entirely sure why or how, but the bottom bunk of the middle one was stopping the Sims from getting up to the top bunk, and there was no reason why at all. I couldn't work out anything I could do with it except to remove the bottom bunk to make it work. I've got a very pink colour scheme in one that uses a rug from Enchanted by Nature and a few bits of clutter that are more girly. The quote-unquote boys room used Adventure Awaits rugs and then clutter and posters that were more game and sports related. I put the same sofa from Adventure Awaits in the hallway on all 3 floors, and then I put some high school years lockers in as well in different colours. They all got a standing fan from the Restoration Workshop kit. I quickly fenced off the stairs, and then I considered moving over to the other building but came back to finish off decorating in the dorm rooms. Put this kind of random Simlish sign up on the outside, and then I was decorating the hallways a bit different from each other. They've all got sort of announcement boards, but the teachers got diplomas and the other 2 floors got neon signs in different colours. I went back to the main building to make a sort of younger kids room. I've got those growing together bookshelves with the shapes on them. I put in a few desks from Businesses and Hobbies because I wanted papercraft. I used the Cozy Kitsch chairs because they were just the right colour, and I put the new reward event monster toy in the corner there next to the door. I've got some little base game lights and some cats and dogs artwork up on the wall, and then some of the papercraft from Adventure Awaits as well. This area was meant as the arts and music room, so I put some easels in because at this point I still thought I'd have teens. I put some keyboards and violins and then some activity tables, the splashes from the artist studio kit, and then I decided to put a little bit of plain wood floor under that so it didn't look like the carpet was so dirty. I got some comfy gamer seats and put some wall art up, and then I moved on to what I was considering as the main classroom. I used the whiteboard from high school years, but I also put the mentoring board from Businesses and Hobbies in so that people could actually teach classes in here. The tables and chairs are high school years, and I put some Cozy Kitsch bookcases on one side. This room didn't function the way I wanted it to either, because while there is an activity for attend lectures, there's not one for give lectures, so nobody ever did any classes in this room. It was basically just a big waste of space in the end. I moved on to doing the bathroom down here, and I put some really ugly little base game counters in there with the sinks, my favourite plant from Businesses and Hobbies, and then bits and pieces of clutter that went with the colour scheme. I don't know why I chose that shade of green, but it just fit at the time. I turned the hallway outside into more of a computer lab. I used university desks and sofas with high school years chairs. I just filled in the gap with some bookshelves and a little love seat from Businesses and Hobbies. And then I put out all the computers in that area and added a couple of more sofas just to fill in the big space that was left outside the bathroom. I got a couple of pastel pop rugs in there, and then I went outside again. I put in the heater from the new pack, I put in a hopscotch, a basketball hoop, and then I put a load of bikes outside as well that the Sims could use. At this point, I went upstairs to do the kitchen, and again, I was still going very industrial grey at this point. I used a lot of base game in here in the dark shades. I made a big island, and I actually did use a fire alarm in this build, which I don't normally, but I don't really think it's okay to subject the kids to a load of fires. I put down businesses and hobbies tables and high school years chairs, and at this point I went away and decided to change the entire colour scheme. So I took off the columns, I changed all of the wallpaper to use a high school years one. I swapped the swatch on all of the windows and most of the playground equipment as well, although I left the white wood. Everything that I could change to a white and yellow, I did basically. I'd decided at this point that I was making more of a small child's school, so I lightened everything up instead of leaving it those sort of institutional greys. Basically, everything changed from the floors to the stairs and the fences around them. I changed the outdoor seating area upstairs. I changed the kitchen to a much more painful yellow tone. I changed the size of the fridges to make them fit the gap a little bit better, and then I changed the dining room as well to a bright yellow. I used the really bright backyard stuff tables, and then I think the chairs were from Cool Kitchen stuff. I got some shelving from Adventure Awaits out in the main area, and then I put the little board game shelf up as well. I put a little bit more shelving in there that was from Laundry Day, but it's in the nice yellow colour, and I just got some colourful lights up on the walls as well. I used more pastel pop rugs in here and some of the Enchanted by Nature ones, although they're not really visible underneath the tables where I put them. I decided to use these little sort of light icons from Dine Out on the outside of the kitchen and dining, and I used Cool Kitchen posters and a bunch of menus and stuff just to fill in all the spaces in there. The space outside the cafeteria, I decided to put chess tables in. I put a cozy kitsch rug, and I just put a few bits and pieces up on the walls. And then in the other hallway, I made like a science lab zone, and I put in the puppet show booth as well. I was just putting activities and skills out in the hallway to fill the space, and it was at this point that I took the teens off the student list and just made it for children entirely. This room, I put in some toys and doll houses. At first, I was going to have school projects in there. In the end, I did take them out and replace them with other stuff. I put in tables from Adventure Awaits with pastel pop chairs. I put in a little purple bookcase there and a couple of activity tables as well. And then I decided to make even more tables with the computers in the corner there and moved everything around a bit. Half of this was like computer lab and half of it was crafts, so I put papercraft down, and I also put the flower presses from Enchanted by Nature. Instead of the school projects, I added some of those little caterpillar resin items, and then outside I put a fire pit, and I decided to put the butterfly display out there as well. I just put some really colourful chairs there and a bit of terrain paint, and then I was back inside to do a little bit more decorating and cluttering. I didn't have a lot going on in the kitchen for such a huge space, so I just added some things to the walls. I added a sink that I'd forgotten, and I put another counter section in so that I could have like a coffee and smoothie station, and I did give it a candy machine and a popcorn machine in the end, I think. I added a sofa to fill in a little bit of space out here. I started putting up wall decoration outside, and then I found this huge item from Get Famous that I really liked that was like a set of blocks, so I put that in the entryway, and I got a load of debug artwork on the walls as well. I did a couple more little desks and chairs out there, and then I decided to have sort of an entertainment station here at the front. I had room for a gigantic palm tree from Lovestruck, and then I went outside and just put a couple of trees and bits of landscaping around to fill a few gaps. Just a couple of bits of low-lying bushes and flowers, and I quickly went back inside to put in a piano inside the main doors. I don't know why it occurred to us to put it in there now, but that's what I decided I was doing, so I quickly put that in, and then I went back outside for a little bit more landscaping. I did another one of those big topiaries from Adventure Awaits and just tried to fill in a couple of little gaps, but I wasn't going insane like normal. I added a little bit more terrain paint around the basketball hoop where I thought it needed it, and just these jellyfish lights from the new pack as well. I made sure it was all bright enough in the dark, and then I was done, so enjoy the screenshots. Thanks for watching, please consider a like and subscribe.